Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Imperial HoloNet. I'm GID123,
I'm with Leader Antilles.
and today we
And
are
I'm Connor.
joined by. Oops, there we go again. And once again, we are joined by Connor. Yay!
Hey, everybody.
So, if you're watching this in order, and I hope you are, hopefully we're doing it in order as well. We just discussed recently reboots and remakes, and today we are going to discuss something that adds to that little discussion, with a certain year one of Batman. That's right, folks. Frank Miller's Year One Batman. So we're continuing our journey through the Frank mind of Frank Miller himself. That would be an interesting mind to go through. I will say that.
Mhm.
So I guess we'll just start with our opening thoughts. Who wants to go first? Red, Connor. Who wants to go first? Red. How about you
How
go
many
first?
times have you read this?
Me?
Or like when was your first time reading it?
My first time reading it was I got this book. Well, I've known about this book actually for quite a long time, but I actually got the book like a year ago, and I just read it off the cuff because I was starting my comic book collection, and I wanted to I have a very small comic book collection, mind you, but I wanted to get like only the best stuff. Like I always like having the best of the best. It's my thing, and recently rereading it when I was reading it recently because now it's more in my head because I'm doing a review of it right now. This is the book I feel that when I read it, I feel like I've read it so many times and just know the story because of things like Batman Begins, Mask of the Phantasm. This is like a story that I just know even if I haven't read it. It's a weird feeling, but it's just the best way I can describe this book.
And I have that just with the book on its own, because you know how Eric knows pretty much everything there is about Dark Knight Returns? Like how
Right?
he's
I don't.
absolutely obsessed with that book. I am that same way with Year One, and I don't know why exactly, but it's just such an easy book to read and get through.
Oh, definitely. Like in the Dark Knight Returns book, I said I didn't want that Batman to be the definitive Batman. Here's the opposite. Like, I can take this as my definitive Batman, or it has his official, quote unquote, year one. So, yeah, like, to me, this is how Batman starts, hands down.
Mm.
Connor, do you want to say your piece? When was
I
your first time?
Yeah, I can't actually remember the first time I read Batman Year One. It was probably when I was a junior or sophomore in high school.
Hmm.
Probably a junior. That's when I started actually collecting comics. But like you, I wanted the best, so I looked around, found the best stories, and I would just start reading them. And I guess I'll be as much of a dissenting opinion on this book as humanly possible. I mean, not really, but relatively, anyways. Because I like this. I like this book. It's very good. I just don't think it's great, and maybe I'm just missing the historical perspective. But I mean, I love David Mazzucchelli's art. Frank Miller. This feels like Sin City Light for me personally, and uh, yeah.
I would agree it's not like my favorite of favorite books of all time either. I mean, I think he's really good, and adding to
Hmm.
what
I
we
mean,
last. Oh, sorry, Connor. Go.
I was gonna say I like it. It is effective, but it's 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 I don't know. Maybe it's the time it came out, but it couldn't be because I've read comics from this era that are much more fluid. I don't know if it's just a disconnect between Miller and Mazzucchelli, but Mazzucchelli's art style is he conveys so much information visually in the details of the environments he renders. But and then but Miller's prose is so overbearing that I feel they kind of choke Mazzucchelli's art, and they kind of make the pacing feel very choppy. It's I don't mind how wordy it is. I don't. I feel like I am reading a collective year of somebody's history in four condensed issues. I really like that, but this book just doesn't flow. It's kind of choppy in a lot of places for me, and I just don't care about some of these characters. And unfortunately, Batman slash Bruce Wayne is at the top of the characters list that I just don't care about. But that's just me personally.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that uh, a lot like Long Halloween. I think that like the whole it's an entire year thing is a smart idea, but I've always felt that it's a little bit of a hindrance on the characters themselves. Joe, at least
Yeah.
it skipped entire months where you get a page for an entire month, and that just it becomes kind of problematic. Like a lot of things get rushed. Like everything with Sarah Essen is just so rushed.
Yeah.
Also, I just don't like that idea in the first place.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you mean, like the idea of Jim Gordon having an affair?
Yeah, that always I somewhat buy that would happen, but
I bought it. I mean, Joss
I
is
don't know. Like I get that they're trying to make him humanized. It's just it's not my Gordon is the thing. So at the same time, this did kind of create this characterization for Gordon because you read Batman comics from before this. Like how much of like the Conway run have you read, or like stuff around that era?
Zero.
insane.
Okay, well, Gordon is pretty much just from his inception onwards, from Detective 27 onwards, he's just the same character. Like, he's just the generic guy. I mean, early on, Bill kind of uses him effectively by having him be Bruce's actual, like, friend. But this is kind of the story that actually made Jim Gordon interesting. Because beforehand, like, he always had gray hair. He was always kind of old. He was just the commissioner. He was as in depth of a character as like what's his name Captain Stacy. Like he wasn't. He was just cop number 5.
He's
In
like
this
the
book-
Jim Gordon of the '89 films.
Yeah, pretty much that, and the Gordon of the '60s show.
Yeah.
Like even in some of the best comics, he was still kind of character. Like even in the stuff where they tried to focus on him in Conway's run and in Moebius' run, both of which by having corrupt mayoral candidates trying to take him down, back-to-back runs. Yeah, the 80s kind of had the same plot over and over. But this book, I think, really makes Gordon an actual character.
At least
And
a
so
good
maybe it's
foundation.
because the transition to all of a sudden having him have an affair on his pregnant wife just kind of feels rushed to me, which is weird because Sarah Essen is an amazing character when you get to like stuff like Nightfall and when you get to No Man's Land especially.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I want to do No Man's Land one day.
I've never read No Man's Land, actually. I hear a lot of good things about it, but
It's choppy as can be and all over the place, but still really enjoyable. It almost reads like
I know
well,
Arkham
what it
City
is.
is very
It's not as City is kind of No Man's Land done better because it's an actual story. Because there is no story to No Man's Land. It is just a conceit to have a bunch of events happen for a year. So if you read it like kind of like how I read it, which was just kind of read 3 or 4 stories at a time, but not really looking at it as a actual storyline as much as just almost its own separate book about the adventures of Gotham City over the course of a year. But then you get like 6-issue arcs that are really, really drawn out and just don't need to exist. It's kind of all over the place.
I see, yeah.
Though its preludes are better.
Oh, okay.
Because they just put out 2 Road to No Man's Land trades. Those are pretty good, as are Cataclysm is fantastic.
So, I don't know if we're ever going to delve into this.
I like to start
I don't know
out
if...
Oh,
What was
sorry,
that?
Connor. Oh, sorry, Connor.
Oh.
I thought you.
You know, I don't know how far we're gonna delve into Scott Snyder's Zero Year, but a lot of people consider this a like that story a remake of this, and it is kind of the New 52 re-origin of Batman. But I actually think Zero Year is probably my favorite Batman story ever made.
It's up there. It's really good.
I love that story, but it's also interesting seeing as how Scott Snyder's conceit for that was, I'm making the anti-Year One. Nobody loves Batman Year One more than me, but I can't make Batman Year One. So he purposefully went in as far in the opposite direction as he possibly could have, while still making a Batman origin story.
Connor, you have to say that when you're around Sid Part 2 and Steve, because they don't like Snyder because he's just ripping off Morrison.
Steve likes Zero Year though.
Yeah, he does. Steve
Okay.
likes Zero Year. Ian just hates everything Scott Snyder Batman in general, and believe me, me and Ian have had discussions about Snyder's Batman.
Well, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to bring up something about Year One, that it does something that I've always liked as just a concept when I'm building my DC universe in my head. Is that I don't know if the idea is that Batman's the first superhero to appear, but I definitely like the idea of Gotham starting out more like Chicago with just gangsters and mafia bosses, and then slowly, and this more does it in Long Halloween, slowly just turns into the land of creeps, freaks, and psychopaths.
Which you get in the final page.
Right. I love that. I love that because I remember it so much from just Batman Begins, which is heavily influenced by this. They call him the Joker. I've got a friend coming who might be able to help. Should be here in a minute. Bat symbol. I don't know what the original origins for Batman are like, and how much of those you can somewhat fit in, and how much you got paid over. I know that there's some.
Well, before this point, we had Detective. Hold on, let me check, because I have two trades to collect the first few Golden Age detective stories. I'm kind of obsessed with Bill Finger. Let's see, which issue was it? I think it's Detective 33 that gave his origin. With the guy who thinks he's Napoleon, but also might just be a Napoleon, be an actor. I forget. It's really confusing. Yeah, it was Detective 33, November 1939. That cover with Batman jumping on a card. And yeah, so that gave the first origin for Batman. So it had been 6 issues after he had been created. We finally got who the hell this guy was, and then from that point on, we had filled in gaps like we had done. They created Joe Chill, I think, in Batman 58. We got Lou Moxon a few years later, which revealed that Chill was actually a hitman. And then nothing until the 1970s when we got the first 3 issues of Untold Tales of Batman.
Right. They keep changing
and then
Chill's origin. They keep changing Chill's origin.
And then we got, obviously, Crisis. And so this book exists because nobody had any idea what the hell was up with some of these characters, because, well, actually, what's weird is this book, like you were saying that, this seems to almost be like a Batman is the first superhero thing, which is funny because the thing that Crisis gave us was the idea that, beforehand, Batman and Superman were the first superheroes in their world. But post-Crisis, the JSA had been around in the 1940s.
Huh. Interesting.
So you had Alan Scott in Gotham City flying around. In fact, they even referenced Superman in this book.
Yeah.
I thought that was just more of a play on words and actually referencing Superman. I thought she was making fun of Gordon. I thought it was more of a play on words, kind of, oh, you're a man of steel. Wink, wink.
No, I'm not talking about that. It's, go to September 25th when Gordon goes to Bruce Wayne. Alfred says, I suppose you'll take up flying next, like that fellow in Metropolis.
Oh, interesting.
Which is a pretty explicit Superman reference.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely Superman. 26, you said? Oh, there we go. Huh, interesting. So maybe Superman and Batman were starting their careers around the same time. Maybe that's the best way I can always take it.
But yeah, I think part of the reason this book took off so much was, like I said, we hadn't really had too many Batman origin stories, and so this is the first that really fleshed out how he actually got everything set up, because we had Batman's first case, which was then readapted into one of my favorite stories, which is what is it called? It's issue 5, I think, of the original Secret Origins of DC thing, which was the origin of Golden Age Batman. They adapted that story there. And just with this book, you know, it really fleshes out Batman's first year. And I think that was just mind blowing to people because we hadn't done anything of his early days and anything from how he became Batman. And of course, this led, you know, you have to, you know, historical context. This led to stories that I think are actually superior, like Shaman and Gothic and the entirety of Legends of the Dark Knight, Long Halloween, Year
Dang.
3, not Year 2, because Year 2 was actually scripted before Year 1,
Interesting.
weirdly enough. But yeah, like a lot of stuff came from this, and I think that's why this has picked up such a legacy.
It's definitely
Like,
historically speaking important.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I get why this book is important. I understand historical context and cultural impact. I just don't think it's that great on its own. Like, when you take away, like, Long Halloween, you know, just break everything away and just look at the foundation on which everything's built. I don't think it's all that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
it gives us a lot of really great individual scenes that make it worth
Right.
reading, but
And
I don't
that's
think
what
it's the best cohesive story. Like you've like the scene of what is it? Like you've eaten well, you've eaten this, you've eaten the cities, or it's money, it's spirit. From this moment forward, none of you are safe, or calling the bats, or my favorite Batman scene possibly of all time, the whole "Yes, Father, I shall become a bat," which is just fantastic. And another one of my favorite moments, the whole thing where he beats up Skeeves, the uh, bullets don't harm me, nothing harms me, but I know pain. I know pain. Sometimes I share it with someone like you. Like those are great iconic, and the whole Joker thing at the end. Like those are great iconic Batman scenes, but I think they're all done better elsewhere, or
and that's why
they're
I said
good
earlier.
to read out of context, but they're worth the price of admission. But that doesn't make the story itself good as much as it means that those scenes are just amazing.
right.
And that's why I
you
said
know, one of
earlier
those-
about. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I was just
no,
saying
you
about.
go.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying earlier at the beginning when I said when I was reading this book, I felt like I've already read it a dozen times. Like Batman Begins, that the Joker scene. It has the origin stuff. It's even Mask of the Phantasm, which is actually another which I controversially said is my favorite Batman film. It has like the stuff of Bruce Wayne on the streets wearing a ski mask and with a jacket, beating up criminals before he becomes Batman. Like
Well,
I
more
have
like beating up prostitutes, but
Yeah.
prostitutes, but
I love the fact that it's like it's Miller. Don't you love the
Yeah.
references in that scene with the whole like Sprang, Finger, and Robinson getting referenced, which this
oh
book has some
yeah,
really nice references.
it does.
But-
The what is it called? The Finger Memorial.
Yeah, that was great because he had passed away I think around this time,
Yeah,
which of course we got the Finger Alley, which was the cul-de-sac that leads to the Bat Bunker,
yeah,
which I love because it means, you know, Batman may exist. You know, the notion of a guy who wears a bat costume might exist, but Bruce Wayne's Batcave underneath, you know, the idea of, you know, the rich guy, you know, making the world a better place by putting on a costume and, you know, saving the world from both angles. You have to go through Finger Alley to get there. You know,
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne is Bill Finger's thing, and you have to go through him to get there. That's brilliant.
I like that.
But yeah, like I was saying, I just feel like I've read this so many times. I've seen it, and I have seen it because you know every Batman movie at least starts with some sort of origin. I'm sure even Batman '89 was influenced somehow by Year One, probably more by Killing Joke. But yeah, that's what I agree with you, Red. That's definitely this is more certain scenes are more iconic than others. Connor,
Yeah,
you
what
were
were you
saying
saying,
something?
Connor, about a specific
sorry.
scene?
Yeah, no, I to jump right off of what you said was, I kind of like what I've noticed is classics aren't really graded on their own merits. I mean, they sometimes are, most of the time they are, but more than anything, a classic is defined by its moments. How many classic moments are there? And it's weird to me that like the first Avengers movie is going to be a much more beloved and revered movie over Age of Ultron, even though Age of Ultron is a far superior film. Because well, the first Avengers movie has Puny God. The first Avengers movie has shawarma. The first Avengers movie has We Have a Hulk. Like it has those moments. I think the first Godfather film is a far superior movie to the second one, but
Right.
the first Godfather movie still has keep your friends close and your enemies closer. It still has leave the gun, take the cannoli. Like it has those moments, and those moments are really what stick in people's heads and make them like something are those moments. So I think that's why this got such mainstream attention and why it's stuck with so many people is because of those moments.
I agree. Like, another example of that, I guess, would be Killing Joke, and everyone said everything about the Killing Joke, but we all remember it only takes one bad day to turn the sanest man alive into a lunatic, and shooting Barbara Gordon in the pelvis area,
Right.
and this is a book defined by its moments more than the greater whole.
Yeah, and you could argue that it is a movie about moments, right? Moments in
Right.
time, moments in the year, and how we are from moment to moment. One of my favorite movies ever made is Boyhood. I know a lot of people hate that movie, but I think it's a perfect film. And that movie has a very similar approach to this, where it's about the time in between the big events, where we have Batman. Yeah, we have that moment where he's like, "Yes, Father, I shall become a bat," but we have him not really sure of his identity. We have more than any moments leading up to the big events, right? Like
Right.
we have Gordon getting pummeled, but we also have him we have that whole part where Flash is talking about how, oh my God, Batman's this weird, crazy creature thing that attacked me. Oh my God! And then all the police people are laughing at him while he's being questioned. So it's stuff like that that's adding to this world, adding to these characters' personalities, adding to these characters' perceptions of each other. And I like Miller's approach as he started off as an artist before he became a writer, where he does put a lot of the storytelling and these characters' inflections and a lot of these characters' personality comes out of the art. And I do think David Mazzucchelli's art is absolutely incredible. I hear a lot of people say that they really don't like the art in this, and I don't get why. Because I don't think we would have a Jean-Paul Leon now, the way he is now, if we didn't have David Mazzucchelli. I don't even think we would have Francesco Francavilla, who did half of the Black Mirror. I don't think we have his stuff without David Mazzucchelli. And the coloring, the way the line work is, the way it's inked, it's so influential. And you can just look at this and see how many artists today have been influenced by Mazzucchelli's art.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I have the first two issues in their actual singles, and dear God, this book works so much better on newsprint. But then again, it also works really well with the reprinted version. A lot like how Killing Joke, it has changes between the coloring between the original form and now the current trade, but both work so well regardless.
Right. Have you read the Batman Year One Deluxe Edition? Did you hear about that whole debacle?
No, I
Oh yeah, because I didn't read it, but I know Mazzucchelli was pissed.
Yeah, and the colorist Richmond Lewis, he was really angry because they printed it on glossy paper and recolored it, and he said that it was meant to be printed on newsprint with this specific color palette, and so removing giving it a new color and putting it on new paper robs it of this very raw street level grit that it was supposed to have to begin with. So
yeah, I actually just realized I do have the deluxe edition, and yeah, I read for this. I only read the first two issues. I only read in the singles, but looking at the panels, yeah, the reprint version just isn't as good.
And I have the just the regular trade. I'm trying to see when this came out. It came out.
We'll go to the front for
2005. Yeah, 2005.
Go to the front page, and it says Richmond Lewis.
Oh, it does. Huh. But I also know one of the things when it comes to the deluxe edition, where the cover is Batman leaping at the reader.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the cover for the deluxe edition, and it's the final page in the story. And I remember, I think it was Mazzucchelli, somebody was really upset about that, when how you put that as the cover, because the whole point is we're leading up to him becoming the confident Batman with the symbol. He's become the symbol by the end of the book. So that's why you have him in front of the bat signal, right?
It's like
So-
with that final shot of Begins. He has not begun until the final moment, which is why the what do you call it? Title card is until the end.
Yeah. And so having that as the cover being the first thing you see when you pick it up, it gives you a false pretense of a confident Batman who is the symbol. And that's why the one I have is the red and black one, where it shows him
Me
kind of
too.
hiding behind his cape.
It
Yeah,
has such a good cover.
it is a really good cover, and I really like how it's designed with the black and the red. And then Morrison does the whole black and red stuff in his run that is completely unrelated to this. But but having that is supposed to give you the pretense of Batman is in the shadows. He's hiding. He isn't necessarily confident in who he is yet. That's what you're supposed to go in reading this expecting. So watching him build himself up to that moment where he is leaping at the reader is essential to the reading experience of the story, and that's why Mazzucchelli was really upset about what they did with the deluxe edition.
Something I just realized right now when I'm going through the book is what I think one of my favorite scenes is when Gordon and Flash are fighting one another. I like how Gordon's using his detective work to beat him up, even though he still gives him that baseball cap. Like he's a Green Beret.
That's a great moment too. I don't break it, I don't punch my hand through his chest. I don't bust a rib. I don't crack his skull. I do just enough. And that is like a very effective form of setup and payoff. And we have, what's the setup? He's watching his every move. They did just enough to keep me out of the hospital, just enough, and bringing that back where I used just enough force to keep him out of the hospital as well. Like that's a great callback and a great, not really character arc, but character form of character growth for Gordon.
Oh yeah, Red, you've been quiet awfully. You want us to bring something up?
I mean, just like I was saying earlier, a lot of this book is about those iconic moments, and like in particular, one of my favorite stories, Batman: The Return, I think has that opening is my favorite Batman moment ever, and it's pretty much just the scene, the "I shall become a bat" scene, but from the Bat's perspective, and it incorporates the line from the end of the Bill Finger original Batman origin story, and thus is born this weird figure of the dark, and just that's the thing. This is a stepping stone to get to stuff like Morrison, and it's important for that reason. But kind of like it's a lot like with what's his face, Mackenzie's run on Daredevil. That was a stepping stone to get to Miller's run on Daredevil, while not being necessarily as great as Miller's run on its own.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Hello?
Is as an entry point, though.
Oh, sorry, what were you saying? It cut off.
Oh, I'm sorry. How effective do you feel this is as an entry point for Batman? Because I think this is a phenomenal Gordon story, and I know that's a common thing a lot of people say. Like, this is probably the best Gordon story ever written. I don't think you really, you get the bare bones of Batman, and a lot of it, his growth is conveyed through visually speaking terms and inner monologue, but isn't it weird that so much of Batman's stuff is inner monologue? I still feel like he's very distant. He is kind of hiding in the shadows, and maybe that is supposed to be like he isn't Batman as we know him yet. He's still growing, but I don't know. I don't know how. I feel like this book expects you to understand certain things about Batman to really appreciate what it is.
Even though it's called Year One.
I think that's because it's not. I mean, the whole thing is, of course, intent, because this book was made just for the diehard Batman fans of the time to explain what the new Crisis, post-Crisis Batman was like in his early days.
Is it though? Because the thing is, we have John Byrne's The Man of Steel run that was kind of supposed to be the same thing, where I thought it was Crisis on Infinite Earths just happened. We have pretty much a reboot happening right now, and we want people to read this to really understand this new direction or this new updated version of this classic character.
I think in this case it was more of just an excuse to fix continuity, and Miller just turned it into something amazing. Though I honestly would not suggest this to people as their first introduction to the character, because in my opinion it's great not because it isn't a Batman story. I don't consider it to be a Batman story or a story about Batman himself where he's the main character. Yeah. It's about Batman as a legend. It's about Batman as the birth of that urban legend, this larger than life being. It's how everyone else reacts to him. It's how Gotham reacts to him. It's the myth beginning. It's Batman as a concept year one, not Bruce Wayne, the man wearing a batsuit, year one, which is why I prefer Legends of the Dark Knight story, like Shaman and Gothic, to this story. Because they're about Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. This really feels more like a not just a Gordon story, but also more like a Gotham story. Where we
definitely
Miller and you had mentioned Chicago. I remember when we Joel, you had mentioned Chicago, and
right. That is gangster.
And then when we talked about Dark Knight Returns, I think we talked about how Miller as a New Yorker was, he was pissed off at the world, just angry and had attitude, and was just, trying to go after everyone, and in a political way. And in this book, Gotham is, the way I see it, anyways, is it's still New York, but it is going after more of that ground level, street level, grit, New York. You get mugged every day of the week, kind of a thing.
Well, when I said Chicago, I just said it because that's just the city right now. It's like murder capital of the world. I know it's
the important thing is that Gordon's from Chicago. He's going to Gotham.
That's true. So,
that's a great parallel. Yeah.
Though actually, I think the idea is that he's from Gotham and then goes to Chicago and then comes back, which is filled in Wrathchild from Batman Confidential. Because he accidentally shot an undercover cop who was corrupt. And so that's kind of, that fleshed out that line when he's first talking to Loeb, when he says, "I've made my mistakes." Yeah. And because Loeb was the one who, when he was a captain, covered that up.
Oh.
And so it's kind of acknowledging that.
Yeah, that certainly answers a couple of holes. I kind of like how this has a couple of holes where if you want to know the answers, you can go out and find them. But it does add a bit of mystique to these characters that do intrigue you and draw you in, and they are compelling, and you do want to learn more about them.
Mm-hmm. Which I think was the point, in a lot of ways, from DC's perspective at least.
Yeah, and it does so without feeling like they're trying just contriving scenarios for you to read more books.
Mm-hmm.
I found it interesting, Connor, you said if this would be a good introduction to Batman fans, because, I kind of like being a completionist, too, in some ways. I'm not a complete completionist, but I do like, especially with comics, I like trying to put things in order, like, okay, this comic came first in the timeline, this comic came second in the timeline. So, so I didn't think of it that way when I was reading year one, because it comes technically first in the new timeline, post-Crisis. But, I can definitely see where you're coming from. I don't know if this is the book I would introduce people to if I wanted to get into Batman. Granted, I didn't get into Batman through the book, so that's about me. Same.
So, what is a good entry point? Do you guys think? What is the ideal? Get your Batman started reading here.
In terms of books,
Monster Man.
The Monster Man.
Batman and the Monster Man is pretty much what I think year one should. Well, I mean, year one, matter of, time period and everything. But I feel like, in my opinion, the best story for an early days Batman is Gothic, but I think of introducing people to what a young Batman is and getting them to want to read more is Monster Man. I mean, that is, other than lumping Morrison together and all of Dixon together. That's my third favorite Batman story of all time.
Would you
Now,
suggest? I wouldn't suggest going with Morrison for his introduction. You need to know a lot about
no,
Morrison is not
Morrison's
for that.
Morrison's run is excellent. I love it, but unless you are a Batman fan, stay away.
Actually, I have R.I.P. Actually, I do have
Oh.
R.I.P., but I actually probably got it more because I just study Batman. Like, I just go to the Wikipedia page and just look up a bunch of stuff. And of course,
Dude, I have all of Morrison's run, and I still don't know half the things that are going on there. Not even the callbacks, just stuff like in the story itself. I still am confused on Honor Jackson. That's still, I get what it is.
Oh, Honor Jackson!
I still am so messed up on that.
I don't know.
Go back and read
years of listening to Stephen E. and just talk about it. I've been learning Morrisonomics, I guess. Morrison philosophy.
Yeah, Morrison. Yeah.
I actually couldn't think of a good entry point because I don't think I've read it yet. Like, I just got into Batman through the TV series and the movies, so that's how I always do it.
Yeah, Batman the Animated Series is a really good way to introduce people. And now, Red, just to clarify, you are talking about Matt Wagner's Dark Moon Rising series with Monster Man? Okay.
Though I think the Bill Finger stuff is also a decent introduction, though more so if you have watched movies and stuff like that and have at least a passing familiarity with who the character is.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't suggest, like, people always say Year One, Dark Knight Returns, Killing Joke. Those are stories that are shaking up the status quo. They're not really, they don't work as introducing people to stuff. I mean, I got into Batman because of Hush, which is horrible, and what was the No Man's Land and then Nightfall, and I was so confused. But I think that's almost more helpful because it makes you want to read so much more.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. It's strange because we have the Earth 1 novels, but to really appreciate like Batman Earth 1, you got to know Batman. It isn't really an entry point.
You have to know Penguin and Alfred and even the Dents and heck, somewhat even like Jolie Madison to get some of the stuff they're doing there.
Right. And honestly, I think the best, like, the most accessible, you can just start reading this and keep going, might be Scott Snyder's Court of Owls, with a huge asterisk question mark beside it.
I think you're right on that.
Because his run is very accessible for new readers, because it was meant to be so, with New 52.
Yeah, I know a friend who likes Court of Owls just because he never read anything of Morrison's. But then you read Morrison, and then your eyes open to the truth of the great Morrison.
I think Court of Owls is kind of it's a little bit too like taking stuff from Morrison, but at the same time, I love how it's Morrison if you don't want to read Morrison's entire run, because with Morrison, I do not read individual stories within that run. I only read it as a whole in one sitting.
Right.
And so Snyder, you can read, the first trade of 0 Year and not read the rest of it for like a day or two and not be like thrown off by that.
Yeah. And what's interesting about Year One, though, is a lot of people consider it like this is like a prequel to Dark Knight Returns. This is the beginning of the Millerverse, which will eventually become All-Star Suck and Dark Knight Returns and Dark Knight Strikes Again, and now Dark Knight 3, The Master Race, and then if Miller is to believe Dark Knight 4. I don't think that. I think the way Denny O'Neil says it in his introduction, this is meant to be the post-crisis establishment of what Batman is now, in continuity. This does not feel like the same place that eventually becomes what it is in Dark Knight Returns, because it's not even because Miller isn't the artist. That's not the reason. Because I think Mazzucchelli, if you're going to do like a story set in the Dark Knight Returns era, only set earlier, like before All-Star Suck, then what you do is David Mazzucchelli is an excellent pick for that. He gets the dirty, grimy nature of this world, and he draws young figures very well. And he has a very classic style to it. It does look kind of Golden Age throwback in a certain way. But I just think in terms of tone, in terms of character, in terms of writing style, this is so different than it's still definitely Miller, but it's different than Dark Knight Returns Miller.
Speaking
This
of
is more
Dark
in
Knight,
line with Sin City.
Chris
speaking of
Sims
Dark
made
Knight,
a great point about the fact that Dark Knight Returns is the end of the Silver Age. It's that Batman and kind of his final story in a perverted Gotham. But like, for instance, here the cops are all corrupt, while in Dark Knight Returns, it's a horrible city, but the cops are completely good, and that's more of the Silver Age thing.
I
But
agree, like,
Batman is always working with the GCPD. The GCPD building in that story is straight out of the comics for decades, and is directly adapted in '89. Like that's the end of that Batman. I mean, he has the Oval and everything. Well, this, like you said, this is establishing what the Batman will be for the next generation of fans.
something I wanted to bring up also, just when you brought up politics, is that when I read this book, I don't see the hardness of Miller that I did in Dark Knight Returns. I mean, maybe that's just me not picking up on stuff. I don't pick up on stuff very easily. But like, I just don't see like the hard-hitting political dramas like Dark Knight Returns had, and just like that harshness of Gotham and like the psychoticness of Batman. Actually, this is
There's
more
a few lines like,
maybe a
what's
few,
what's
but
the line with Skeeves?
I
Like
don't feel like it's hitting me over
just
the
a couple
face.
like when he's just snorting like in the middle of a thing, and like that one woman saying, "Where do I start? Bad enough that you're black." Like, Owen deals like all that stuff. Like he's just doing drugs in the middle of talking with his lawyer, and like that's really or like cut off like stop taking crack. It's bad for the nerves. Like that's Frank Miller right there.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That and
and
everything with Catwoman, with
punching
him
a
making
punching
Catwoman a prostitute, which is just yeah.
punching a prostitute with a smile on your face. That's Miller.
Oh
So
yeah, definitely.
so
And the
um,
constant hog tying. That's Frank Miller.
yeah.
Which Daredevil Season 2 references. It's great.
So, what I meant by like it's hard edge, kind of hard boiled sort of. I kind of meant more hard boiled noir styled Miller. This isn't as angry as Dark Knight Returns. Dark Knight Returns is written by somebody who was very noticeably angry about
Yes.
everything in the world and just kind of making making a statement about it. Year one is more hard boiled noir where everyone is
Daredevil,
grim.
but even dark.
Yeah, like people walking down alleys. It's always raining. People are, shoulders are always hunched over. They're very cynical about the world they're living in. Then you have this, melodramatic inner monologue. And yeah, it's melodramatic, but it's not melodramatic in a bad way. It's melodramatic in the way Sin City is. But, Sin City, of course, comes later. And Sin City is awesome. I love Sin City.
I gotta read Sin City. Or watch Sin City, I mean. But yeah.
You should do both. I really like the movies. I actually like the second Sin City movie. I know that's one everyone hates, but I really like the Joseph Gordon-Levitt story, and I really like the Dame to Kill For story. So you should watch. You should read the books because they're really good, and you should watch the movies.
Gotcha. Something I actually wanted to bring up is something I never understood. Why does Commissioner Loeb have a Mickey Mouse pin on his t-shirt?
Oh, the constant like things in the back of his room are hilarious.
Is that like a statement against Disney, or just like just random? Oh, put a Mickey Mouse pin on you.
Well, and he
He
has all
affinity-
kinds of things.
He has an affinity for pop art, I guess.
Yeah, I do like actually one little panel of Commissioner Loeb's wrinkled face when he's taking that cough drop. It just looks so creepy.
Yeah.
You mean the nicotine pill or nicotine thing?
Yeah, it sounds like a cough drop.
Or,
It's
what
a-
is it?
It's a cough drop. It is.
Eucalyptus cough drop.
I'm forgetting because in the movie he's like, because doesn't in the animated movie, Gordon makes like a reference to the fact that he's on nicotine patches.
Oh, okay.
Right.
To tell him about the smoke because Loeb's kind of tempting him or whatever, or trying to piss him off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is back when the police were always corrupt. And also another thing that this book kind of reminds me of. It reminds me a little bit of Arkham Origins in a way.
Oh yeah, and I like Arkham Origins, and this is going to be controversial. I actually like Origins more than this. Mainly because I think it's this story, but from Batman's perspective.
Yeah.
I don't think Origins.
And like, it sums up like everything I like about the book, but it focuses primarily on. Because the thing I like is Bruce trying to make Gotham better and trying to actually get Gordon on his side. But what's great about that story is I think it has a more optimistic. Like, this is ending with cool. Batman has Gordon on his side. What I like about Origins is it's now Batman has the entire GCPD on his side. Like, I love that final speech Gordon has in that game. In fact, I love the ending of that game when Gordon's talking to Barbara and he says, I was putting a bunch of dirty cops and I didn't think I could change it. Everyone breaks eventually in this city, but he's given me something, or like because Barbara admires him, he's had something to believe in. And he says maybe he can give them, like referring to the corrupt cops, something to believe in, and maybe in return they can give him something to believe in. Like the idea of Batman makes Gordon better, and Gordon's able to help the GCPD because in Earth 1 does this beautifully. The whole idea of Gordon, if Gordon had had a Batman, he would have broken just like everyone else. And kind of Gordon and Bruce are both by the end of that game trying to help out by making everything, making Gotham better, or giving opportunities to the GCPD officers to be good cops because they had so many so many globe make it so they can't be good, they can't do their job. Oh, sorry. Gordon, where did I cut out?
You can't do their job. You kind of like a few words behind that.
Wait, what point did I cut out?
Like when they were talking about how they can't do their job, sort of thing.
Yeah, they can't do their job because of the corrupt people in Gotham, and so the idea is kind of by the end, Batman can make it so that they're able to actually get things done. They're able to not have to be corrupt. They can actually fight people like Loeb, because beforehand, everyone in the GCPD would either become corrupt or get killed, or their family would get killed, and they just break, like Bullock in Gotham.
Right.
And Bruce is giving them the opportunity not to do that, and I like Gordon's thing about, and maybe by being inspired by him, they can inspire him. Yeah. I just like that because it's about, that's that story, but because this story shows Gordon's reaction to Batman. And I feel like actually Dark Knight Returns does a little bit better of showing how Batman affects the people. Like, he inspires Catwoman, but other than that, you don't see too much of that in the story.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
I would say, though,
like
that... Oh, sorry, Connor, you go first.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I was just going to say that I feel like with Origins, I feel that, even though Batman has such an effect on the world, I feel like Joker has even more an effect as well, because, he brings out Bane, he kills, did he kill the...
He kills Loeb. He puts him in the gas chamber.
He kills Loeb. There's even a speech where he's like, there's even like a speech in the game where Joker's like, Loeb gone, Croc.
Oh no, he says. I forget. Oh, you're thinking of the first game when he's like, "Oh, I love it. You smacked Harley around. That's my job."
No, not that one.
You're thinking in Arkham Origins when he says, "I've taken down the GCPD. Killed the commissioner. Free Blackgate twice, and it's not even time to open presents yet."
Yep.
Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, like that. I did more in a day than you've done in a whole year since you've been doing this. Or I think it was
how long has it been? 3 years? He actually makes that joke in every Arkham game. Because he also says that in Arkham City when he says, "I've wrecked the city, killed Strange, killed Raish, killed your girlfriend, and it's not even time for tea."
Huh.
Or time for breakfast or whatever.
But
he says that in every game.
Okay, that was my point. Connor, you were going to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that in this story ultimately isn't about Gordon first and foremost. It's not about the character of Bruce Wayne, Batman, first and foremost. It's about the relationship and how realistically somebody in the police force who has a unwavering sense of morality and a faith in the law, how somebody would like that would even consider aligning themselves with a vigilante like Batman. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is about. And I think on those terms, it is effective. and by the time we get to the ending, it feels earned. So, and their faith in one another is rewarded by the end. So I think it is effective on that level, and it does have a personal edge to that. That Arkham Origins I think gets a little too bombastic and big towards the end, where some of that personal stuff gets a little lost in translation. So.
Yeah, throughout the second act, kind of everything gets because that book or that game, like it ends and then it just keeps going after Bane gets taken down.
I know.
Yeah.
That's
Like when Bane is the only one who escaped. Like it almost was like it was two games meshed into one. Though I still think that that final confrontation with the Joker onwards is amazing, but Blackgate again got kind of weird and all the Bane stuff.
Well, don't you know that Dark Knight Rises just came out? We got to show off Bane.
No, their Bane was actually it was weird because we hadn't got a good adaptation of Bane, and then in the same within a year of each other, we got two good adaptations of Bane.
Yeah.
It's so weird because animated series just screwed that character over. The Batman screwed him over. Like everyone does him horribly. Even the comics were Secret Six is good, but everyone else didn't get it. And then all of a sudden you have adaptations doing the villain well.
Yeah, and my whole thing with Bane is he was always treated like that jock high school football player who scored the winning touchdown, and then it's 20 years later and he's still bragging about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I broke I'll break you. I'll break you. Remember Nightfall? I did that.
Like he's just holding up the trade. He's like, look.
Yeah, it is like that was his first appearance. You've done nothing, idiot. So
what's great is the stories that kind of do that 0 Year Riddler thing, where the villain who peaked too early, and he's I love it when they have stories that actually occasionally. I think Dixon does this best. Then again, it's his character, so he's the smartest guy to go with that stuff. Where you have Bane, in a fight with Batman, almost like giving himself handicaps and stuff like that because, or giving Batman handicaps because he already beat him once. He wants to actually challenge himself because, he keeps saying, I peaked too early. I took him down once. I need to work for my next victories.
All right.
Actually,
but again, that rarely happens.
Now, I guess finally moving.
Him in the Dark Knight was just hilarious.
No, I guess finally.
That book was horrible.
I guess moving from Bane to Dark Knight Rises to Dark Knight to Batman Begins. Red, how do you feel? Okay, you said that Origins probably does its best. What about Batman Begins? Because Batman Begins is directly.
I was talking about Batman's relationship to the GCPD because that wasn't really important in Begins.
Okay.
Begins is my favorite Batman movie of all time. It's my favorite film of all time. Yeah, Begins is less of an adaptation of Year One, and more. And in Nolan has actually said this. They passed it around on set. Have either of you read The Man Who Falls?
No.
That is the story that that Nolan has said that Begins is actually based on. It is the story that inspired him to make the movie.
Really? Because I would never guess that. Honestly, I wouldn't. Maybe that's just my.
Well, it has actually also Blind Justice as well because that introduced a card. But the thing with Man Who Falls is it's not actually a comic. Weirdly, well, it was released as a comic, but have you guys seen those weird stories? I'm looking at Murder at Midnight in 12, or Murder at Midnight in 3. There's a lot of Batman stories that for a while there were just prose, but they had images in the background.
I saw that.
I saw
Clown
at Midnight.
Yeah, the Clown Cry. I saw that.
Clown at Midnight.
Yep, I know
that
one.
is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Isn't Arkham like that? The Arkham Asylum comic like that?
No, it's not. Arkham Asylum has art by Dave McKean that is so oddly laid out, and it's very unorthodox in its layouts.
Okay.
And it's painted artwork.
Okay.
But yeah, with Man Who Falls, that pretty much it sets up all the stuff with Bruce training. That's the first story that really dealt with him actually learning to be Batman and having to train and having to get to the point where he's able to combat all these villains and stuff like that. And it also, I'm trying to find the books. There's some there's direct lines from that story that are adapted into Begins.
Out of curiosity, do you have the Batman Greatest Stories Ever Told trades?
I have. Well, I have the greatest Batman stories ever told from 1989, or sorry, 1988, and the second volume of the ones with Alex Ross art.
Okay, because I have both of the ones with Alex Ross arts. I know one of the stories in those two has a story that's all written out in prose. Is that The Man Who Falls? Is that collected in one of those two volumes?
Hold on, I have both of them next to each other. Let me see.
Because I might own that story and have never known it.
I know they did that Batman Begins comic adaptation trade that actually collects it as well.
Ooh, that's cool.
Because again, he actually passed it around to everyone on set, like every single person filming, everyone, because it's really good. Actually, it's actually written by Denny O'Neil. It's not in the second one. Hold on. But yeah, it's something you wouldn't expect. Because it's a thing from I think like 1989, or no, it's actually I think 1990, and it takes like some stuff from the Denny O'Neil Shaman arc. Like some of it's really pointless changes to stuff. Maybe it's the autobiography of Bruce Wayne that uses that. It's not in this. Where did I read it, so where is it? Hold on, I have a bunch of trades that collect like iconic Batman stories.
All right. While you're looking for that, one thing I noticed that was interesting about this book was Batman doesn't speak like actual lines of dialogue. It's all internal dialogue.
I thought he spoke at least once.
Until, I mean, there's. Oh wait, hold on. Yeah, there's the part where he's undercover and he's talking.
When he speaks, when he has that whole "I like to share my pain" thing, and the "You've eaten well."
Yeah,
There's the you've eaten well, but that comes.
But it's him as a wraith.
Yeah, that
not
comes.
him as a person.
Yeah, that comes towards the end of the second issue, which is halfway through. So I think it's very interesting that until they start, we always get Bruce Wayne talking in a facade. We never really get Bruce. I mean, we get I think maybe one interaction of Bruce and Alfred exchanging lines of dialogue together. But there's a part where he's talking to Commissioner Gordon and Sarah Essen, where he's putting on the ginger ale and blonde bimbo routine, and then he's got him, in the Batman costume. You've eaten well. Then you have him disguised as a veteran, saying,
Right.
So he's always in some kind of a disguise when he's talking, and I think he isn't really come into his own by when he says you've eaten well. He hasn't really found his identity, so to speak. So he is just wearing a Batman costume at that point. So he is not he isn't Batman yet. So
Right. So, strangely, when you would talk about the adaptions like Batman Begins and Arkham Origins, strangely, when I was saying I felt like I've read this before, and I mentioned Mask of the Phantasm, Mask of the Phantasm actually does this. I don't want to say it does it the worst because it's still a good movie on its own, but it doesn't have a lot of it only has really one reference to I think year one in terms of just Batman doing karate outside and him in his early stages wearing a ski mask and beating up people. Because they don't really go into his whole relationship with Commissioner Gordon, but that's not what that movie's about, though. So it's not it's a problem.
I love Dark Knight doing the Batman on a motorcycle with the mask on thing.
There's actually a line here from Dark Knight, I think. At least that's what I saw. And Batman goes, here we go. No, sir. Not a criminal record. Got the word from Arkham Asylum. Yes, sir. Name's Albert Bloom. Diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic released 2 weeks ago. Isn't that a reference to Dark Knight that henchman the Joker had during his assassination of the mayor?
No, it's what's his face?
Thomas Schiff. Thomas Schiff.
Yeah.
Thomas Schiff. Well,
the guy with the Rachel Dawes name tag.
Yeah.
That guy.
I thought he was a paranoid schizophrenic too, though.
He is.
Oh yeah.
Paranoid
Okay.
schizophrenic. Yeah, am I the Joker tracks?
Yeah, I thought
But
that's
yeah, so I found the trade finally. It was do you guys own Secrets of the Batcave?
I do
no,
not.
that'd be cool though.
It collects The Man Who Falls. It might be in the first greatest Batman stories ever told thing because it's really iconic.
Let
But
me
like
move on
it's
over
all
to.
it's the story that introduced the idea that Bruce. Oh no, sorry. Dark Knight Returns introduced the idea that Bruce fell into the well, but it kind of fleshes that out, and it's other than Shaman, the first story that really talks about Bruce.
Is Shaman the
Like
one
actually
with
training.
Hugo Strange?
No, Shaman is about this bat guy. This guy wearing a bat mask, and it's all about like masks and magic and whatnot.
Okay.
The Man Who Falls is from Secret Origins. It's from 1989.
Okay.
So yeah, it would actually been right before Shaman or as Shaman came out. And like it opens with Bruce like jumping into a building, and it's kind of about him having fallen, as a kid into the well, and how he's someone who's constantly getting knocked down, constantly falling. Like it introduces the idea that he left when he was 13 and traveled around the world, and for like a semester would go to certain colleges and then leave, and like would get offered all these jobs. And also, it's also the story that introduced Karigi to us, and it has like this awesome thing where he goes there and Karigi's just sitting there meditating, and so Bruce meditates for 3 weeks, just waiting for him to talk, and then finally he says, "Okay, you can sweep the floor." And so then Bruce sweeps the floor. He stayed for like nearly for the first month he swept. For the next he swept and washed dishes. For 2 more he swept and boiled rice. Finally, the 5th month he was given actually allowed to fight, and like it has like Ducard in it, and it deals with the bat smashing through the window again. Like it's pretty much every single Batman story up to that point being combined into one, and it's really good. And there's some lines in there that are taken directly to Begins. Again, the entire first act of Begins is pretty much just an adaptation of the Karigi segment, and from Shaman the Willie Doggett,
Right.
In Alaska. But yeah, it's really weird because nobody ever brings that story up. But again, like he passed it around on set to everyone. It's his favorite story. That and Long Halloween, because I know Long Halloween actually has a bigger influence on Begins. Like Begins is Long Halloween and this.
Well, Long Halloween definitely on Dark Knight.
The Man Who Laughs adapted, or sorry, Man Who Falls. Year 1 is Dark Knight also as well.
Bro, yeah.
Weirdly. Both stories are adaptations of those.
The story I was looking for was called Death Strikes at Midnight in 3. That is also written in prose.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I really like that story as well.
It's interesting how you said
I don't know why, but those Batman stories work really well, especially with the art behind them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Clown at Midnight is incredible. I don't like the art at all, but
it's horrible. CG.
It's so weird. Yeah,
I
it
got
looks
Batman Incorporated, which was so horrible.
I heard about the Clown at Midnight, and that story just sounds horrifying.
Oh my god, it's amazing. It's like the best.
I just say it was horrifying. Horrifying. It's scary. Like just with the Joker, like from what I hear, like it's the Joker changing again, like because he has multiple personalities or just like he reboots himself every so often.
Yeah, he's just spent most of the story sitting there in a full body cast. All you can see is his eyes, and he's just sitting in a wheelchair.
Ooh.
It's terrifying.
I can imagine.
And like even Bruce gets like, shitting his pants when Joker finally starts talking.
I find it interesting, Red, how you brought up nobody remembers Shaman, because I feel like everybody thinks of Long Halloween is like the direct sequel to Year One. In fact, there's a lot of direct sequels to Year One, like Man Who